Hello students, myself Diksha from www.nucleonacademy.com. I'll be helping you in your concepts of biology. So without any further delay, let's move to the class. The topic will be pollination and double fertilization. It is a continuation to the previous topics that I have already made videos on, that are microsporogenesis and megasporogenesis, and the links to these videos are available in the description. So pollination is defined as the transfer of pollen from anther to the stigma. Here, while defining pollination, I did not say from which flower to which flower, but it is just a simple definition of what is pollination. Now, depending upon what kind of flowers are involved, the pollination can be subdivided into self and cross pollination. This you have studied in your previous classes also, in your lower classes, 10th class, that self and cross pollination are simply defined as when one single flower is involved in pollination, in the transfer of pollen, then it is called as self pollination, and when two different flowers are involved in the pollen transfer, then it is called as cross pollination. But here in 12th class, we will see that self-pollination is also termed as autogamy here, and cross-pollination is subdivided into heterogamy and xenogamy, which is also called as allogamy. So in 12th class, we simply do not state the types of pollination as self or cross. We call them by these three different names: one, autogamy; second, heterogamy; and the third, xenogamy or allogamy. So first type, autogamy. As auto means self, so it is simple here that when pollen is transferred from anther to stigma of same flower, it will be termed as autogamy. And we should emphasize here that same flower is the most important phrase. The kind of flowers that can carry out autogamy are bisexual flowers. This is the most important requirement in order for autogamy to occur. Now, bisexual flowers can be of two types in a plant kingdom. One type is called as cleistogamous flowers. They are closed ones, and the another type is called as chasmogamous flowers. They are the open ones. So bisexual flowers, if they are closed ones, like if they are cleistogamous, then definitely what they can anticipate is autogamy. But if the bisexual flowers are chasmogamous flowers, then what they can anticipate or what they can support is the type of cross pollination. It means I could either write as geitonogamy or xenogamy, the both kind of cross pollinations. There are some plants like Viola, Commelina and Oxalis who possess both type of flowers, namely cleistogamous and chasmogamous. Now, why are they adapted in this manner? It is because both these type of flowers have a significance of their own. The cleistogamous flowers, who are self-pollinating flowers, they provide assured seed set. It is because they are closed flowers, they pollinate within themselves, hence the pollens are not having any chance to move out. So they all are available for the ovules which are possessed by the same flower. So in this case, there is no wastage of pollens, and hence assured seed sets are produced. Chasmogamous flowers, on the other hand, because they have a tendency to cross-pollinate, they have a tendency to share their genetic material with the other kind of flowers, so they bring out the variations. And we all know that variations are helpful in ensuring the survival of a population. So in brief, if I say that cleistogamous flowers produce assured seed set, so they are helping in the maintenance of growth rate of the population. The number of individuals of a population will be maintained by this method. And chasmogamous flowers help in bringing about the variation at the same time, which helps in the survival of population if the environmental conditions become hostile. So let's move forward to the second type of pollination, that is geitonogamy. It refers to transfer of pollen from anther to stigma of, you see, this is important to note here, another flower from same plant. So geitonogamy is seen when the flowers are either bisexual or unisexual flowers present on the same plant. It means the plant is monoecious in nature. Monoecious means that all the plant population contains only one type of plant. Overall, the plant will be called as bisexual, but if we look closely, then the plant is containing unisexual flowers on it. There are some peculiar things that you should be clear about geitonogamy, since it is technically a type of cross-pollination. Because we say that pollination becomes cross in nature when the two different type of flowers are involved. But you see here that since the same plant is involved in the formation of anther and stigma involved, so we see that technically it may be a cross-pollination because two different flowers are involved, but genetically it is not going to bring about any variation like autogamy or self-pollination. So this is a very important concept that you should be clear about, that geitonogamy is cross-pollination technically, but genetically it is of no use to the plant. Okay. Now the third type of pollination, that is called as xenogamy or allogamy. So it is defined as transfer of pollen from anther to stigma of a different flower of different plant. So here we see that the two different parent plants are involved, and hence this is the true form of cross-pollination which is going to bring about the variation. So if we talk about the advantages and disadvantages, advantages are that it brings about variations and they are necessary for survival and adaptation of the population. And the disadvantage of cross-pollination is that many pollens go wasted in this process and the chances of fertilizations are comparatively low. As in case of cross-pollination, now that is the next topic also, the agents of pollination which are required to carry out the cross-pollination. So cross-pollination majorly depends upon the availability of agents of pollination. If the agents of pollination are not available, then the pollens which are produced will not be able to reach their destined stigma, and hence a fruitful fertilization will not be possible. So with this, the three types of pollinations are over. Next, as I said, we will talk about the agents of pollination. By agents of pollination, I simply mean they are the factors in the environment which help in the process of pollination. Since the plants cannot move from one place to another, so they are not able to share their pollens among themselves on their own, and hence here the agents of pollination are required. The agents of pollination have two major categories, the biotic and abiotic. In case of abiotic agents of pollination, there are the two major categories which will help here are wind and water. And the pollination which is aided with the help of wind, it is called as anemophily, and when water is used as agent of pollination, it is called as hydrophily. In case of biotic agents, insects are the most common organisms that are used by flowers as pollinators. Now let's talk about the adaptations that are related to the agents of pollination. It takes a large period of time to adapt to a particular type of agent pollination by the plants. So we will be discussing about the different adaptations that different kind of plants have according to what method of or what agent of pollination they use. Anemophily and hydrophily, we will see that they mostly have common adaptations when we compare it with the entomophily, that is the insect pollination. But we will discuss some one or two differences also. So first of all, anemophilic and hydrophilic flowers are colorless in nature as compared to the entomophilic flowers which are brightly colored. Anemophilic flowers, they are odorless, same are for hydrophily, and entomophilic flowers, they are fragrant and scented because of their petals. Anemophilic flowers are small and inconspicuous, same is for hydrophily. But entomophilic flowers are usually large sized, and even if they are small, they are arranged in conspicuous inflorescence so that they can be seen very easily from a distance by the insects. These were the adaptations which are related to the flowers. Now we will discuss about the pollens, how the pollens of these three type of categories differ from each other. In case of anemophilic flowers, the pollens are light and dry. And here in case of hydrophily, the pollens are light and unwettable because they have a mucilaginous covering which protects or which does not allow the water to come in contact with them. And in case of entomophily, the pollens are light and sticky so that they can stick to the body of the pollinators. And also in case of anemophily and hydrophily, the pollens are produced in large quantities, but in case of entomophily, the number of pollens produced are comparatively less. One more point that I forgot to mention here is that there is no nectar production by the flower in case of anemophily and hydrophily, but in case of entomophily, nectar is produced so that the insects can be attracted by the flower and can be rewarded in return for the pollination. So this was all about pollination. Now next we move on to the topic which follows after successful pollination has occurred. Now in case of flowering plants, the fertilization is not simply called as fertilization, it is called as double fertilization. We will understand it in a little while why double fertilization. Now you must be knowing what is fertilization. It is simply defined as the fusion of male and female gamete. It is same all throughout the living world that fertilization is simply defined as fusion of male and female gamete. But double fertilization here simply refers to that there must be two types of fusions occurring, and those we have to keep an account here. Now, the pollination that we were discussing as a topic, it is usually asked in the boards as having an objective information. This particular topic rarely comes as 2 or 3 marker question, but double fertilization is a very important topic in terms of being asked as a long answer question. So in this particular topic, what minute things need to be considered, need to be remembered while attempting this question, that I will be focusing on. So double fertilization has 2 types of fusion. Now first type of fusion is called as syngamy. Syngamy is quite synonymously used for fertilization. So we will see that the definition of syngamy is also the same. It refers to the fusion of male and female gamete to produce zygote. Now you see, when we define, actually the definition that we have crammed up unconsciously so far does not include the information about the ploidy of the gametes and zygote. So this is where students usually lose marks by not mentioning any other information that may be required in order to gain the complete marks. So I would also represent syngamy in the form of a chemical equation representation. We can write it in this manner: male gamete plus female gamete, it results into zygote. So this is a representation of syngamy, but whenever you will be writing this representation, it will automatically be there in your mind that something more can be added to this information, and then you will be able to realize that you can add the information about the ploidy of these 3 types of cells here, N, N and 2N. This is whole different topic. We have already discussed in the gamete formation that male gamete and female gamete are haploid in nature, and when they fuse together they result in a diploid zygote. So with this you have given all the information that is required in order to explain syngamy. Now the next type of fusion, that is called as triple fusion. It is defined as fusion of second male gamete with polar nuclei cell to form PEN, that is primary endosperm nucleus. I hope you remember that when megasporogenesis was discussed, in an embryo sac there was an egg cell, and in the central region of embryo sac there was a polar nuclei cell. And during the discussion of microsporogenesis, we had seen that there are 2 generative cells present in one single pollen. So here we are talking about the second male gamete that was produced in a pollen, that was present in the pollen, and that second male gamete will fuse with the polar nuclei cell and it will result into PEN. Now here again we will represent this definition in the form of an equation. So we will write second male gamete fuses with polar nuclei cell, it forms PEN. We have already mentioned the full form of PEN in the definition, so we need not write it compulsorily here. And about the ploidy, this is haploid. The polar nuclei cell was diploid in nature, and if you do not remember it, you can go back to the megasporogenesis video. And PEN as a result will be triploid in nature. So here we have told about the 2 types of fusion. We have told about the ploidy of each and every type of cell involved. So this is how this topic should be attempted, and in this way we do not lose any kind of information that may be very crucial. So this was all for this video. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to our channel to get useful content in future, and have a great day ahead.